What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the very first edition of the MMA News Live. I'm your host, as always, Ray. Alongside me out there in the producer's booth, my buddy Billy. You might have seen him as he's waving to the camera, cross-eyed with a mullet. He was watching the fights with me live this weekend. We're going to give it about 60 seconds to see if anybody jumps in and joins us right now, but we are going to be covering this past weekend, UFC 305, an incredible main fight card. I was able to bring it to you guys live. We did a little version of our very own fight companion here at the MMA News. And if Billy would be so kind, Billy, why don't you bring up that fight card for us and we'll start breaking it down one by one.
All right, fight card's up, Ray. All right. So,
technical difficulties on episode 1, but we like to have fun here at the MMA News. All right, so a familiar name in Li Jingliang took on a relatively unknown Carlos Prates, and I tell you what, I think that the smart money would have been on Li, but he got separated from his consciousness in spectacular fashion. Probably the worst knockout we've seen since Bryce Mitchell fell to... Who knocked him out, Bill? Josh Emmett. Thank you very much. So when you saw Li down there's a few moments where, you get excited about a knockout, but then there's something so sobering, so somber. You're genuinely worried about the welfare of an athlete's future. And Li Jingliang at 36 years old, with wins over Santiago Ponzinibbio and Salikov, I'm not sure what he has left to give to the organization or the sport as a whole. I'm going to say that journeyman is going to be what he's remembered at. And I don't really see anything coming up for him next, but... in Carlos Prates. Billy, pull over how old he is for me real quick, if you don't mind.
Carlos Prates.
Thank you kindly. We can just find an age on him. I want to see what kind of future he has in front of him.
All right.
Because I do have I have an idea on who I think the UFC might want to put him up against next, and that is I want to see exactly how. Can we find an age?
Yeah, I'm surprised it doesn't show it right here on UFC.com.
He's 31 years old. So I'd say what right now, Kevin Holland, who's 15th, neither Carlos nor Lee were in the rankings in the welterweight division, but the UFC had a big signing in Michael Venom Page. He came over. He was not able to get the job done against Ian Machado Gary. And, Carlos over here, who likes to bring the violence and definitely like to trade, I would like to see the UFC give Carlos, who's 3-0 in the organization, an opportunity to crack that top 15, or at the very least, maybe try to give Michael Venom Page an opportunity to dance with a striker. So Lee, congratulations on an absolutely phenomenal career, especially from part of the world that hasn't produced too many top-tier level mixed martial artists. And Carlos, at 31 years old, you're young, but you're not that young. Time is of the essence, and at 3-0, you're probably 3 title shots. You're probably 3 fights away from being in the talk for title contention. So if you're able to get past somebody like Michael Venom Page, if Dana and the brass and the UFC see it so fit, I would love to see you get that opportunity and see what you can't do before Father Time runs out on the clock. So again, congrats to Carlos, Lee.
Yeah.
Sorry to see you go out like that. Billy, you got anything?
No, I think that's great. So Tai Tuivasa, Rosenstruik. We watched the fight. It was a decision split, but... I think Rosenstruik shouldn't have been a split decision. It seemed pretty dominant.
Well, we all know what happens when fighters fight in their hometown. And Tai is just one of those guys, before I even break this down, there's certain guys that you're a fanboy for, and Tai Tuivasa is one of those that anyone who's more than a casual fan is probably going to be enamored with. Tai Tuivasa is entertaining. He's tough. I think I said this weekend, he looks like the general manager at Jiffy Lube, who kind of lifts weights on the weekends. But you got to see the difference in striking credentials between him and Rosenstruik. Rosenstruik was first to the punch every time, and as tough as Tai Tuivasa is, the hand speed was just more than Tai Tuivasa was able to navigate, Bill. And you saw him being afraid every time that he was actually throwing. Jairzinho was slipping to the right. He was countering with a right hand. Jairzinho put on an absolute clinic. Again, I don't think there was any argument that should have been a split decision. I think it was disgusting. But at the same time, Tai Tuivasa, the UFC, there's a premium on big bodies in the organization, which is why you don't see a lot of heavyweights get cut. Jairzinho had a cup of coffee with a title shot a few years back. You'll remember, I think it was Ngannou and Overeem both. Did he beat Overeem?
I don't
Pull him
recall.
up.
I know
Let's go to the
Ngannou
last.
knocked him out.
This is the fun part about doing it live, fight fans. We can actually kind of...
Yeah, but to sum that up about the split decision, he outstruck him 92 to 37, 91 of those being significant strikes. So Not sure how they got that there.
Well, we knew where UFC 305 took place. We knew where the judges were from, and somebody.
All right, so we're gonna load more. This back.
He lost to Curtis Blades, Volkov. Let's just run this back. Holy bringing it all the way back to 2020. I forgot that he got past JDS.
Yeah, so he beat Overeem, and then got the shot at Nagano and got knocked out.
He did beat Overeem? Doesn't say when. Doesn't say who won. I'm trying to remember who won that fight.
There we go. Pull it up.
Yeah, he did beat Overeem. Okay, so go back there, Bill. Thank you kindly. I appreciate you, brother. You're the best.
No problem.
So you want to talk about somebody who's like very quietly had a pretty impressive career in the UFC? If you can go back to his just from the bottom, I want to introduce fight fans to a couple of people that Josino Rosenstruik, who's seldom if ever mentioned in the heavyweight decision, he's got some really notable wins. So we're going to scroll back down. I forgot how long he goes back, Bill.
Oh yeah.
Andrei Arlovsky, who's just retired apparently. So he goes back to and he's that's a pretty active heavyweight too, brother. So he got past Overeem, who's probably in the top 10 heavyweights all time. Obviously, he lost to Francis Ngannou, which everybody does. He got past UFC heavyweight former champion Junior Cigano dos Santos. He fell to Cyril Gane, who many people do. Sakai was an underrated heavyweight. Curtis Blades just does what he does. He wrestles people, drags them down. Alexander Volkov, we've talked about on the show several times. Incredibly underappreciated heavyweight. Dawkins. And, I forgot that he lost to Almeida. Got past Gazayev and got past Tai Tuivasa. I don't see there being like a line for a title shot for him with the likes. Even he's at least 2 to 3 fights away. But nevertheless, he's cemented himself as somebody who's given a lot to the UFC heavyweight division. Can you pull up the heavyweight rankings for a minute, Bill?
Yep.
See if it makes sense to put Josino against anybody who currently doesn't have an opponent lined up. He was number 11. Go to Almeida, see if he has anybody lined up.
Almeida, what's the number?
Number 6.
Number 6. He does not have a fight.
Be fun to see if Josino could run it back and maybe avenge the loss. And Tai Tuivasa, I don't know where he goes from here. Again, the skill set was just a little bit too much to navigate. But would you be surprised if Tai, walks off into the sunset, Bill?
No, I think he'll stay in contract. He's young, right?
He's younger than he looks. I want to say he's like 32, something like that.
Yeah, shoeys will do that to you.
Is that beer out of a shoe keeps you looking young?
Oh, this is the one where they don't. UFC.com does not tell you people's age for whatever reason. But I think he's like 30. I think he's like 30 years old.
I will check right now.
But he's on what, a 5-fight or a 4-fight lose streak. So Tai Tuivasa's on a 4-fight lose streak now. But I think he sticks around.
He's 31.
31. He's still young. He's still fun. I don't see a reason to get rid of him. If he was a welterweight, if he was a middleweight,
5-fight losing streak, brother Bill. Lost to Cyril Gane, Sergey Pavlovich, Alexander Volkov, Marcin Tybura, and Josino Rosenstruik.
Oh, he hasn't won since he beat Derek Lewis with those elbows.
He hasn't won a fight since February of 2022. Yeah, that's...
Wow.
I tell you what, man, a 5-fight losing streak, unless your name is Tony Ferguson or Diego Sanchez, I don't see there being a way that he stays in the organization.
Well, I do hope it for Ty. Hopefully he gets... I don't know where he's at in his contract, but if he can get a win...
Well, look for Josino Rosenstruik maybe to get his opportunity to avenge his loss against Almeida. Let's go back to the fight card, Bill. Well, is Dan Hooker the next one up?
I believe Dan Hooker was the next.
That was an absolute barn burner fight, fans. This is a fight that I'm excited to talk to you guys about today. Very, very excited to talk to you guys about today.
Dan Hooker. Yeah, we called that one being the fun one of the night.
So you had Gamrot coming in, and we did. We said that was going to be the sleeper pick because Dan Hooker was probably fighting for his opportunity to stay inside the organization. He's a guy who had a lot of buzz around him several years back. Gamrot was a heavy favorite at the time at minus 325. And I tell you what, man, the put the women and children, and Gamrot was looking pretty effective in the first round or two, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. It was definitely a very close fight. 82 total strikes from Dan Hooker, 88 from Gamrot. Significant. Dan had 65. Gamrot was 64. There was no knockdowns. There was no submission attempts or any of that. Gamrot did take him down 5 of 15 times, but it appeared to be a split decision.
There was nothing really done on the ground once Gamrot took him down, and Dan Hooker, much like a fine wine, this kid got better with each and every round, especially as they went into the end of the fight. And again, probably the longest guy in the weight class that I've seen. You agree with that, Bill? At 155?
Yeah, super long.
The reach was just absolute, and it looked like he was able to utilize that reach effectively. And you definitely saw around the middle of the fight when it turned, Gamrot got a little bit gun shy. You saw him getting overconfident. Dan Hooker, I have no problem with the decision the way that it went. I actually predicted that it was going to be a split decision. If it went for Gamrot, I don't think people could have cried either way. But Dan Hooker getting back in the win column.
Yeah, he was on a 3-fight losing streak prior to beating Turner. It's Jalen Turner, right?
That I believe that's correct.
Yeah, and then now Gamrot, so he's back up on going up now.
So let's. What do we think is going to be next for Dan Hooker? Let's go to the UFC lightweight rankings, if you can, Bill.
UFC lightweight rankings. Here you got him.
So
Dan just made a huge jump, 6 places with the win against Gamrot, jumping up to number 5.
Holy shit!
Yeah, Gamrot was way up there. So what did he drop to? He dropped 3 places, so he was number 5.
Does Do Bronx Oliveira does he have a partner coming up?
Let's check it out. He does not. He lost to what's the guy? That's the guy that hit the fan coming out and got suspended.
Sarkurian, Shabazi. I forget how to pronounce his name. Forgive me, but that could be a fun fight, man. Because I just want to see Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler fight each other forever. I don't want to see those 3 guys fight anybody else in the rest of mixed martial arts eternity. But yeah, I don't think Beneil Dariush makes sense. I don't think. Fiziev just dropped. He lost a fight not too long ago. Yeah. The only person up there that really looks like it makes sense is going to be Charles Oliveira. And I think that Charles Oliveira would make light work of Dan Hooker. But again, jumping up 6 places with a win over the heavy favorite. Congratulations, Dan Hooker. And Gamrot, who's a little bit longer.
I do believe on the news they're already talking that fight, by the way, as well. Yeah, they're both got the dyed hair. I think they, at least at minimum, they're talking to each other on Twitter.
Okay,
about it. And it makes sense. You're right, 100%. Charles Oliveira versus Dan Hooker makes sense.
Well, now you got Brazil versus Australia, New Zealand, which is a whole nother can of beans when it comes to the promotional aspect of the fight. And now for Gamrot, him dropping 2 spots, maybe a fight against Fiziev just to put Rafael, the guy with the Khabib wig. Yep. I think that fight might click on Fiziev, see if he has anything coming up soon.
Yeah, see, he lost to Gamrot. That was his last fight.
Oh, that's why I remember him losing his last fight. Then I don't think that makes sense.
And he lost to Justin Gaethje.
Everybody loses to Justin Gaethje except Khabib Nurmagomedov.
That's right.
Well, either way, that was Gamrot's fight to win, much like the main event, which we're going to talk about soon. And I don't know what's next for Gamrot, but I do look for big things out of Dan Hooker, especially winning in his hometown and fashion that way. The card stacked against him, heavy underdog. Let's go back to, I believe we're on the co-main event at this point, Bill.
Yep, Kara-France, Steve Erceg.
So I was talking massive amounts of crap saying that the flyweight division doesn't really do anything for me. And I am going to tell you guys right now, in the flyweight division, I saw the only word that comes to mind is professional in the way that Kara-France approached this fight and the way that he stayed patient, picked his spots. And that was one of the most brutal knockouts at 125 pounds in recent memory. Definitely found himself, that video is going to be on promotional content for the UFC for the next year to come. Seeing a guy like Kara-France who sniffed out the UFC strap at 125 pounds not too long ago. Let's go back to those rankings real quick, pal.
You want to get to the flyweight division rankings?
Yeah. Let's see where Kara-France moved to.
He's got to jump up. Steve Erceg dropped so he stayed at 4. Erceg, who fought for the belt against Alexandra Pantoja, I guess, was only ranked number 7. Kai, his fight before that, he fought for the belt when Brandon Moreno had the belt, and he was knocked out by Brandon Moreno. But you're right with Kara-France. Usually in these flyweight divisions, if we see knockouts, they're knees down the middle, or they could be
punches
head
and
kicks.
bunches. Volume will just and they get smothered, and the ref will pull them off. This was a legitimate stoppage, and ever since Davidson Figueiredo moved up to 100, I could have seen him and Brandon Moreno fight 37 times, just like Gaethje and Chandler.
Absolutely.
I'm with it.
Absolutely.
I'm here for it. I love it. Click on Brandon Moreno. See if he has anybody coming up.
He does not. He recently lost to Royval.
Brandon Royval out of Colorado. Yeah. So
we're all fans of Royval.
Go back real quick. I think that's a fight that might make sense for Kai Kara-France because both of those guys have been at the top of the heap for a long time. Kai coming off a win in spectacular fashion. Brandon obviously needs a win to get another opportunity to get back the strap that he lost a while back. Is Royval announced versus anybody to defend his belt?
Well, Pantoja's got the belt. I think he's fighting.
I'm sorry.
I think that's his next fight, though. I think he has to fight Pantoja. He lost to him in a five-round unanimous decision, but then he had Moreno. So Kai could move his way in, being that Brandon just fought Pantoja the end of last year.
And it's nice to see 125 pounds starting to get a little bit deeper now, having more than just 2 names to talk about potential guys to hold that strap.
Yeah, and Kai Kara-France was knocked out by Brandon Moreno, so I guess if he wants to avenge his loss with him, that one would make sense. Then you have Amir Albazi, so he's on a tear, and he beat Kai Kara-France as well. So they're the 2 guys in front of him, other than Brandon Royval. Maybe that's the fight then, Brandon Royval, and then the winner of that to Pantoja.
I think that's going to make the most sense. And, you go back a couple of years, if it wasn't Demetrius Johnson, nobody was ever going to tune in for a flyweight fight. And right now, even with Davidson Figueiredo leaving the division, we find ourselves with, 3, 4, maybe even 5 names who have the opportunity to hoist. This might be, it's funny, I didn't think about this before we started the show. This might be the most competitive time in UFC history for the flyweight division, Bill.
Yeah, because when DJ was there, he didn't leave any competition. And we talk about Joseph Benavidez, who was amazing.
Jiu-Jitsu Benavidez at Alpha Male.
But he just couldn't beat DJ. He beat Cejudo.
Yeah, you had Louis Gadenau. You had the Magician, John Dodson. There were a couple of names that come to mind, but nobody. So go back to our fight card and...
Yep, back to the fight card, and that's going to leave it for the main event. So... obviously, Israel Adesanya and Dricus du Plessis.
So this was the fight that, again, I didn't love the matchup for Izzy, and Israel Adesanya was about this had a similar feeling to when Kamaru Usman was fighting Leon Edwards for the first time. Remember that, Bill? We were watching that outside?
Yeah. Yep.
Because you were watching Izzy just get better. Because remember early in the fight, Dricus took his back, went for a choke, and then just kind of gave it up. And I said Dricus might have just lost his best opportunity to win this fight. And Izzy was just getting comfortable, finding his range. He was getting better with every round. The line moved. I want to say Izzy was minus 350, minus 380 going into the 4th round. And as I had said before, Izzy's a guy who sometimes lets himself get bullied, lets himself get pushed into the cage. He's not exactly a big, imposing, sturdy guy. And Dricus, much like the band... bless you, Bill.
Excuse me, thank you.
Dricus, much like the band Nickelback, nobody knows why they're good or why they're successful, but he managed to find a way. Him landing those big shots on the chin of Izzy up against the fence, taking his back with the hooks real quick, and just strangling the life out of him with the gable grip, pretty much made the entire MMA world forget about the fact that Izzy dominated him for the better part of 17 minutes. Like, that fight was so incredibly one-sided, other than DDP taking his back early on, and Izzy got comfortable. I'm going to go ahead and say that Izzy might have even gotten a little bit lazy. And Dricus, who was incredibly competitive, he was relentless and he persevered, was able to pick his shot, much like Leon. When Leon was fighting Kamaru, I remember we were actually cleaning up our barbecue at that time. Remember that? We kind of mailed it in?
Yeah.
We weren't even going to watch anymore. So as we're watching Izzy do that, and Dricus just looked outclassed, much like Jairzinho and Tai Tuivasa. He had one opportunity to seize everything in life. He ever wanted it, Bill. And he captured it. He did not let it slip. So obviously we're going to talk about what's next for these guys. I was rooting for Izzy, but again, I didn't think it was a great matchup for him. Dricus is going to be running it back with Sean Strickland, who I still to this day don't know if Dricus actually beat. Dana agrees with me. Bill, what was your take on that fight?
I had Sean Strickland winning it. I could be a little bit biased. I'm the American here, so but I've watched it twice now, and it's close enough that Izzy really shouldn't even had the shot. They should have ran that one right back, in my opinion.
I would have liked to have seen that run it back too, but Izzy's been a company man forever, ever since he came over from kickboxing, probably 6 or 7 years ago, and he's been active. He's been stood by Joe Rogan thick and thin. So for Izzy, we're looking at the welterweight. Forgive me if I don't look at the camera, fans, but I'm just going to look over here.
Yeah, what's next for Izzy?
middleweight.
Because obviously you have Sean. Robert
Whitaker's got to
Whitaker's-
fight against Khamzat.
Yeah, Khamzat, who's ranked number 11 because he's the pull-out king. Five main events, 5 pull-outs. So I guess that's how he's back at 11. He's obviously never lost. His last fight was against the past welterweight champion, Kamaru Usman. But I don't know why he's that far back at 11. It only makes sense to me. What do you think? That because he's pulled out so many times?
So I'm actually going to break down this division really quick. So obviously we have Dricus, who's holding the belt at this time. Sean Strickland has the next title shot. So right now Sean Strickland's out. We're not going to talk about Izzy because he's the guys we're chatting about. At number 3, we have Robert Whitaker, who's taking on number 11, Khamzat Chimaev. At number 5, we have Jared Cannonier, who's he's fighting Caio Borralho
This weekend,
this weekend.
Yep.
Nasruddin, I don't think that's a fight that a guy like Izzy's going to take because Izzy's a guy who just commands a presence. If he wants to be a company man, he will. Click on Nasruddin, see if he has a fight coming up.
I don't think he does. He just recently knocked out Jared Cannonier. Oh, he does. Okay, he's going to be fighting Allen on September 28th. Let's go into that fight. Mom versus Allen, that's his upcoming fight.
And that's crazy because they're probably just getting very good name
Oh, sorry, I meant to go to the...
It's okay, everybody. We're figuring it out as we go along.
Yeah.
Love talking to you about the fights. And if you guys weren't even watching right now, me and Billy would probably be chatting over barbecue about the same shit. So
That's it. So that's going to be the Moicano St. Denis.
Benoit
card.
Saint Denis, yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to... It's Brendan Allen. Okay, so he's ranked number 7, Brendan Allen. I do
Okay.
know this guy. He's got the man bun. So that's his next fight.
So go back to the welterweight rankings one more time, and we'll to the middleweight rankings, and we'll see if anything even makes sense for Izzy. Because at this point, Sean Strickland's out, Whitaker's out, Nasruddin's out, Jared's out, Martin Vittori. They've already fought, right?
Who?
Marvin Vittori and
Izzy, I think twice.
Yeah, that fight doesn't do anything for me. Brandon Allen's got a dance partner. I think Borrachino, Paulo Costa, he has a fight coming up.
Paulo Costa does?
I
No. His last fight was his loss to Strickland.
Do you think maybe that's the fight to make then?
What, for Izzy?
Yeah.
No, I think you do the winner of Nasruddin and Brendan Allen. He already humped Paulo Costa,
Paulo Costa is the highest paid Brazilian fighter in the UFC right now. And he's probably got the biggest name power, because Izzy's one of those guys where he's going to draw fans he's going to draw the casuals. Like certain people will tune in to watch Paulo Costa fight and Izzy fight. They have no idea who Benoit Saint Denis is. They have no idea who Brandon Royval is. They have no idea who Nasruddin is. So I'm saying for a guy like Izzy, they're not going to put him in anything other than a main. Has Izzy, since he had the belt, ever even been a co-main? I can't imagine that he has. And this is the tough part.
No, they wouldn't have made him a co-main.
And this is where it becomes a little bit difficult. Is where can Izzy? Is he at the point now in his career where a 2-time UFC middleweight champion competed for the belt at 205 against Jan Blachowicz? Is he actually going to be headlining a UFC Fight Night card, Bill? You see that being a possibility?
Yeah, I do now. Yep.
It's kind of sad, how the mighty have fallen. But either way, Dricus got the job done. Did he? All you got to do is win 3 seconds of a fight, Bill. It's the biggest difference between mixed martial arts and the NFL. In the NFL, you got to play 60 minutes. You can't be down 49-13 in the fourth quarter and have, an 87. Dricus just decided to show the world that, perseverance trumps all. And even if you're not a du Plessis fan, you got to tip your cap to him. And Are you seeing the memes coming around now too? How he just gets it done regardless of. They're like, it's so wrong, but it works.
Yeah, he's like the working man of the division, you know.
Who just happens to have the belt. He's a better looking version of Sean Strickland in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. South
So I am
African
excited to
Sean
watch
Strickland.
those two guys run it back. Do you have any thoughts on how that's going to go down?
It's going to be another banger. It's going to come in close. I don't see DDP submitting Sean Strickland. I seen it happening versus Israel because he's a lot stronger. But Sean's strong. His ground game, his defense game's crazy. They're going to stand and bang, and whoever tallies it up.
And Sean might have the best jab in the middleweight division too.
I do believe Dana said that he wants to book a South African fight. So if it's over in his home country and it's the same fight we've seen before,
How many
expect him to get his-
countries does Sean Strickland have yet to alienate? Is that what Dana's doing? Is he just trying to make Sean Strickland like an enemy of the state in every single country that the UFC can fight in?
Yeah, we can expect Sean Strickland to wear a shirt that says "Make South Africa Great Again."
Oh my God, that is. Well, either way, that was UFC 305. I had an absolutely incredible time watching the fights with you guys. We had a couple of folks in the comments. We were having a good time together. What do we got for? I want to go to UFC 306 at the Sphere. We're going to chat about that briefly, Bill.
Sounds good.
This is what do you think about Merab deciding to post the picture of his cut? Just a couple of weeks, maybe a month shy of the fight night.
That's Sean is a sniper. Why would you tell a sniper where to hit? It's very dumb. It makes no sense why.
Almost like he's preloading an excuse for why he's going to leave. Let's go down to the bottom of the main card and let's just see if any of these.
It could be a troll. It could be a troll thing. Maybe he didn't want to do it. You see your boy Rosas fighting, the young guy.
Bro, most handsome guy in the UFC right there.
That's right.
Raul Rosas Jr. He's
fighting a guy without a last name.
Bro, he
China.
Rosas Jr. looks like Bigfoot Silva had a love child with
The woman fighter that submits every.
That's who I'm trying to think. What was her name? She just won the other night. Remember?
A few weeks back. Yeah,
she beat Tracy Cortez.
she has a crazy name. It's like not a common name.
Well, she's Brazilian, but she that's who this guy looks like. I want to have a DNA test with Bigfoot Silver and that girl. So
Diego getting another shot with Brian Ortega.
Diego
after
being
T-City pulled out.
active, man. This guy's making a name for himself in the division relatively quickly, especially with the hairstyle. I'm not sure what I have to say about that, but Brian Ortega, man,
He's rocking the mullet, man. He's got the mullet.
I get that, but Brian Ortega, who somehow still sits at number 3. You go back 2.5 years ago, he was a spokesperson for Modelo. Looks like the bad guy in a James Bond movie. Absolutely marketable monster, just submitting everybody in the world. And who was it? Max Holloway was that the fight that landed like 430
strikes? Yeah, insane. Yep.
And there's fights that change your psyche, and then there's fights that change a man. And Brian Ortega, unfortunately,
and that was a while ago, So he's coming off of a win over Yair Rodriguez. He had a loss to Yair due to knockout in the first round, and then he ran it back, and it was a submission.
Well, Yair can.
Was that a cut? That first fight, that knockout, was that a cut? No, that would have been doctor stoppage. So it was. I can't.
So let's go from the bottom right there. He got past my favorite. Everybody knows how impartial I am to Frankie the Answer Edgar. Then he lost that fight in the end of the 4th round. Stood tough against Max Holloway, but that was a fight that changed a man. That was in 2018. So he took off almost 2 years, and he was able to get past who is going to soon retire. That's the Korean Zombie and Chang Sung Jung. Then he lost for the eventual champion to Alexander Volkanovski, who everybody loses to, and that was a unanimous decision. Like Brian Ortega was at no point even competitive in that fight. So I mean, Brian Ortega was one of those guys, man. We were the UFC is quick to hoist the term GOAT status, quick to throw people on the Mount Rushmore, but it's much like boxing. Boxing, it takes a long time to get big and a long time to get slow. The UFC, as fast as you can climb the ranks, you can fall from grace just as quickly. So, go back to that fight card for UFC 306
at the Sphere.
So you have the aging, and he is aging. I hate to say that. That means I'm getting old too. But Brian Ortega, do you think that they're giving Diego Lopez a shot at somebody ranked 9 spots ahead of him just to build the name and what might be the next star in the division?
Yeah, we were questioning why they were doing it before. Ige stepped in and within like 3 hours notice. That was awesome with him. But, before that, he knocked out Yusuf. He knocked out Sabatini.
He's fought 5 times in the last 15 months.
Yeah, this guy's on a mission. So probably.
Oh, whoa. So he had first round submission, first round KO, first round KO. That guy has 3 first round finishes up until he got against. And Dan Ige took that fight on short notice. Is that accurate?
3 hours.
Okay.
Literally. Yeah. Evlov's beat everybody. So
him and Magomed, is that his Ankalaev? I forget I think it's Magomed, but some of those Eastern European guys, man, Dana just does not want to let them. If every Eastern European, like Dagestani grappler in every division had a fair shake, we might be seeing a lot of Cyrillic alphabet, next to UFC gold. So.
Yeah, I mean he boosts up Umar because of Khabib, but at the end of the day, Evlov's, if we look at it, he probably hasn't won any by knockout at all. So here's all his fights: unanimous decision, unanimous decision, unanimous decision, decision. It's hard though because he literally is beaten Allen, Ige, Lopez. He's beat top guys, but he's not exactly exciting to watch. It's that Russian style wrestling, that Eastern European wrestling that's really made it happen for him.
So
I think Diego's probably getting the benefit of the doubt from the UFC brass because he's a I'll fight right now type of guy. I'll fight anybody, anywhere, anytime, and they love that.
Oh, ever since Donald Cerrone kind of made that a thing, him and Michael Chandler.
Yeah.
There were certain guys where, but again, I'm gonna put my name on this one right now and say that Brian Ortega, I do think that the UFC is probably, and this is a win-win for Diego Lopez because sitting at number 12, he shouldn't be fighting the number 3 ranked fighter in the world. Brian Ortega really T-City has nothing to gain here. A win over Diego Lopez will not put him in title contention. So right now, this is sink or swim time for Brian Ortega. And I do think that the UFC brass, who we don't have a Brazilian men's champion at the moment, I think that Diego sitting at the favorite at -162.
Yeah, he's a really good fighter. Other than Evlov, I mean, he's a scary dude, and he comes in with the mission. The way he fights is fun.
Oh,
there's no doubt about that.
The guy brings the violence every single time. So if he's able to get past Brian Ortega, forgive me, Bill, go back to the rankings one more time. I'm trying to see what. A win over Ortega is not going to give him an opportunity to fight for the title, but I want to see who could be next.
Is Pantoja not Brazilian?
It sounds Brilliant.
Yeah, he might be the only Brazilian one. But yes, usually we have 2 or 3. So, and then obviously Alex Pereira. What division? Oh, here we go. Yeah, so obviously Taporia is at
So you've
the
got
top.
Diego Lopez there. Giga just lost, right? We covered
Yeah,
that
Giga
fight.
just lost. He's getting old too, so.
Click on Josh Emmett.
Josh Emmett doesn't have a dance partner.
I don't think he does.
Yeah, he knocked out Bryce Mitchell.
Bro, Josh Emmett versus Diego Lopez. I am here. That can headline a fight card, and I will cancel my plans to watch Diego Lopez take on Josh Emmett.
Me too. That's two scary fighters. That would be an amazing fight.
And bro, you talk about a deep division right now. We're doing it live, so fuck it, times we can do whatever we want. Alexander Volk, is he the greatest featherweight champion of all time, Bill?
I think Max Holloway, but everybody else, he beat Max.
You got Max above Jose?
Yeah, and then Jose, and then Alex is the way I would go with it. And I don't even consider Connor a featherweight.
Okay. So you've got Alexander Volkanovski. He's top 10 fighter in history. You got Max Holloway, absolutely amazing guy. T-City Ortega, meh. Yair Rodriguez underperformed his skill set, if you can ask me. Arnold Allen, he's a dangerous guy with a small name. We talked about him last time. Evolov, who just beats everybody, another Eastern European who grinds people to the world and back. Josh Emmett, who has thunderous knockout power in the featherweight division. Aljo Sterling, people forget that he actually held the belt for a little bit. Calvin Katar, Giga.
Well, Aljo just moved up to featherweight, right? He's like Merab's his teammate. He's I got my belt there. I'm gonna go.
But I'm just saying, when you have Edson Barboza at number 15, is that the deepest division that the UFC has to offer right now, Bill?
It does seem like it, doesn't it? It's a scary division right there.
Let's go down real quick. Let's take I just want to see, if you go down to 10 through 15, go back down like to middleweight. So if I look at 10 through 15, Roman, Khamzat, Kaio, Michel Pereira, Anthony Hernandez, like none of those guys do anything for me. Like there's really not much depth outside
Yeah,
the
at
top
least
10.
the last 3, yeah.
Michael Page, Vincente Luque, Neil Magny, Joaquin, no, not too much. Benoit Saint Denis, Jalen Turner, Patty Pimblett at lightweight. Lightweight's pretty big. And then at light heavyweight, you have
Dominic Reyes, Bogdan Guskov, and Alonzo Minifield.
Oh, that featherweight might be the deepest division that the UFC has to offer at this point, Bill.
Yeah, I don't see a division being much better except for the only one I could think is maybe lightweight. Let's see what they no. Patty Pimblett just made his way to top 15. Jalen Turner and Rafael Dos Anjos. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, and then second being lightweight. Lightweight's the second toughest.
Well, we talked about that too. That's where if you take the average guy in the country, that's probably where most guys would fight. If the average man's 180 pounds.
That's right. Yep.
Let's go back to the Sphere fight card so we can bring this show to a halt.
All right, and then you got Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. That's going to be their third fight. Last one ending in a draw. First one.
Valentina Shevchenko is another one of those. Much like Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the women seem to fall from grace quicker than the men. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
It's very
Speed
strange.
matters.
With the exception of Rose Namajunas, we haven't really seen anybody able to get back to the top of the heap. But Valentina Shevchenko, so when Ronda Rousey came around, there was no women's division. The UFC has Ronda to thank for that, 100% through and through. She got past Liz Carmouche. Then we thought that she was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then we had. Joanna Jędrzejczyk was the next one who were like, oh my God, she's the greatest female fighter of all time. Then we had Amanda Nunes, and then we had Valentina Shevchenko, who just absolutely set the standard across the board in grappling, in striking, in class, inside and outside the ring. We think that she's going to win forever. And then a young woman by the name of Alexa Grasso comes over and takes the belt. Who are you pulling for here, Bill?
I love Valentina. But I guess it's in with the new and out with the old. I mean, Grasso's a Mexican.
So I bet something awesome about having a UFC champion from Mexico, bro.
From Mexico, yeah.
Cain Velasquez is really from Arizona, but he was you have Yair Rodriguez, Cain Velasquez, Alexa Grasso. Can you pull up
Brandon Moreno? There's been a couple, but Alexa Grasso, you're talking about who? Grasso?
Yeah, I just want to see her last.
Before she fought Shevchenko twice, it was she just
Macy Barber.
Win. Yeah, and Macy's tough, so.
Karolina Kowalkiewicz, she was another one I thought was going to do a lot in the women's division, but never really came to fruition. And go to Valentina real quick. Let's see where she's.
Which Esparza is this? Yeah, she fought
Carla Esparza, Cookie
I
Monster.
thought so. Yeah, they didn't have her picture there for whatever reason.
Looks like a man. Looks like BJ Penn with those traps right there. If you look at that.
And what were you saying to go to? I'm sorry.
Valentina's, because she's got one of the most impressive resumes as champion.
Yeah,
man, woman. You talk about all-time greats.
How many belts did she defend? I mean, I know she lost to Amanda Nunes, but she went up, and then
Amanda Nunes could easily fight at 145 pounds, and Valentina's really a 25er.
And she didn't even lose her belt. She went up.
Right.
She went up to get it. So she lost to Nunes twice.
She beat Holly Holm,
who's a bigger opponent.
She beat Jessica Pena. Is that it? Jessica Pena?
Yeah,
right.
and then Joanna moved up to fight Shevchenko. That was like one of the biggest super women fights. Beat Liz Carmouche.
Joanna, Jessica I, Liz Carmouche. Jessica Maya, I believe her name is Jessica Andrade.
Yeah, so the division started getting weaker back in the day when she was fighting I and Carmouche and Maya and Andrade and obviously Joanna moving up and her moving up to Nunes and her moving up to fight Holm. Those were better fights. So. Well, let's look at the rankings.
Do you ever think that great champions become victims of their own success, Bill?
Yeah.
And do you understand what I mean by that question?
I feel like that's Izzy. I feel
that's exact. So when you become so dominant for such a long period of time, even if you go to a 2-2, 2-1 kind of guy, we will always remember what was. Which is why Rose Namajunas is coming off that big win over Tracy Cortez, right?
Yeah, Tracy Cortez. Yep.
And when you see somebody who's so dominant for so long, it's like once they reach that pinnacle of success, like that's the standard that we hold them to. And that's where it's tough for Joanna when she became a journeywoman. Like it didn't have the same appeal. And I almost think we kind of look down our nose at fighters like that because they are so dominant, they are so incredible. They become victims of their own success.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're almost better off being a Rose Namajunas where you've gotten the belt twice, we're cheering for another third time. Like, who's next for Rose? Did they pick anything? Because, she's top 5. She was supposed to fight Macy Barber. She had, what was that?
Epstein-Barr
syndrome. So
click on Rose. Let's see if she's got a...
Blanchfield. She's going to be fighting Blanchfield, which means she's fighting the number 3 person. So Rose is making a run at that division. Anybody fighting her is fun to watch. So if she beats Blanchfield, she might have that next shot on whoever wins this one.
I think it's tough not to give it to her if she gets past Blanchfield just because of the name recognition and people getting excited about seeing her run it back one more time.
That's in 3 months. Does this, I don't even know how to say her name. Farrow have a partner?
Negative.
She beat Blanchfield. So she does not have a partner.
Well, let's go back. We'll talk about the main event, which is going to be Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Merab. A little bit of controversy surrounding that, Bill. We're gonna touch on the drama this week, something that I normally don't like talking about. What did you think about Merab posting a picture of the fully functioning opening sitting above his eye, Bill, against a precision striker?
Look, unless you're just trolling, do not post injuries. That's absolutely insane to do. Unless you're pulling who's the boxer kid that we all were watching beat Devin Haney, tested positive for PEDS. His brother
Ryan Garcia.
Okay. He ultimately trolled everybody, made us all think he was on some type of hardcore fentanyl or something, and he turned out to actually be ready for the fight. But no, you can't do that. If that's real, then he's a pretty dumb guy.
Well, what do you think about Merab saying that he's actually going to stand in the pocket and trade and strike with Sean O'Malley?
Hopefully that's trolling as well. That would be extremely dumb. It would be
very entertaining.
He's a tiny little guy.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Sean O'Malley is probably, I would say, arguably
the longest.
He's the biggest star the UFC has right now.
Yeah, he is. That's why I was surprised they fed him Merab because Merab is small and strong, and I could see him possessing the ability to hold down Sean or push him up against the cage and have an extremely boring fight.
And Sean he's walking around. Every time we see him in the octagon, he has gotten better and better. His confidence is growing. He is probably the most elite striker that the UFC has right now. I'd say at the ability to cover distance, balance, probably the best overall striker.
Him and Alex.
I think he's better than Alex. Alex Pereira's got some God-given power. I'm saying...
Well, at the size of Alex, you can't move the way Sean does. Sean is,
Cyril Gane's in that conversation for legitimate, tactical strikers, but how do you see this fight going down with Merab actually coming in as the favorite, Bill?
Yeah, they're expecting Merab to hold Sean up against the fence, get him down, do that Eastern European wrestling on him, hold him down, making it a boring fight. I could see Sean. I guarantee right now Sean's working on takedown defense, grappling defense, getting up. I don't see Merab.
Sean's also a guy that's great at fighting at range, Bill. He's a guy that doesn't need to be up close and personal to land. I think that he's going to create distance and he's going to land from spots that Merab is not used to dealing with, and I think that it's going to frustrate Merab.
Yeah, I think Sean's going to take the win. I think he's going to create a bunch of distance and he's going to close the gap whenever it's time to close the gap, and I'm going to see him get a knockout.
I'm hoping Sean gets the job done. I'm hoping that Merab tests him a little bit. I want to see Sean have the opportunity to go into deep waters and show people that he can fight. There's a lot of guys who, as long as the fight's going their way, they can be dominant and they can be phenomenal. I want to see Sean. I do think that Merab's going to have the opportunity and the ability, and I do think that he's going to take him down. I think that he's going to punish Sean a little bit for allowing himself to get taken down, but I want people to see that this kid is as tough as he is talented. I'm going to say probably somewhere I'm going to say like middle third, maybe early fourth. Merab's probably going to gas himself out trying to make Sugar Sean carry his weight. Wrestling takes a lot more out of you than precision striking does. And, Sean's not a guy that has to throw with incredible volume to be effective. And we've never seen Sean O'Malley come even close to getting winded.
Right, yeah. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Didn't have phone on silent.
We got a caller.
We got a call coming in.
What's your name on the line? Longtime listener, first-time caller, all the way from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. We've got Brad. Brad, what's on your mind today?
I think Merab's going to win.
And that's why you're a piece of shit. So for the UFC and the brass, like I said, Sean O'Malley's he is the greatest thing that the UFC has right now, which is why they're utilizing him to. Can you believe they went with him and Merab at the Sphere instead of Conor and Chandler?
Yeah, but Connor's not locking in for him, so they just can't check it, or they can't trust it.
What else do we have to talk about today, Bill? Before we went over UFC 305, we talked about UFC 306 coming up.
You got John Jones heading towards retirement, but then also saying, if you pay me the right wage, maybe I will do the Tom Holland fight. I think he would.
Tom Holland? Is he going to fight Spider-Man? Let's
I always
go.
call. They're both British, right?
That is true. Yeah.
Tom Holland is as well.
Except one's 142 pounds, the other's 260.
Yeah. Yep. I'm excited to see Neil Magny fight this weekend. He's always a fun one to watch.
Yeah, let's do a little breakdown this weekend of what we got coming up.
All right.
You got Jared Cannonier, and he's another one, man. You forget how close he was to, holding that strap. He was right up there in the conversation not too long ago.
Look how much of a favorite Michael Morales from Ecuador is over Neil Magny. A minus 900, 8 ranked. Or not even ranked. He's not even ranked top 15. He's got a 16-fight win streak. He's 16-0, and he's fought 4 times in the UFC. That's crazy. Minus 900 versus the OG. Magny.
KO. And I don't think Neil's as old as we think he is. He might be 37, but it feels like Neil should be about 45 at this point. Guy's an incredibly talented jiu-jitsu practitioner. Neil Magny, American veteran. Guy's got a lot of victories by the way of submission. I mean, at plus 600, man, I don't think it's a bad idea to put 50 down on Neil.
Right. Yeah.
Go to Neil's last couple of fights. Let's see what he's.
Yeah, let's get the Neil here.
Ian Machado Gary, he's a stud. Gilbert Burns is an absolute stud.
So he's win-loss, win-loss,
everybody loses to Shavkat Rachmanov. Keep going.
Right. But this is going far back. So he was lost.
Until Magny fought Jeff Neal, I wasn't certain that they weren't the same person just trying to get 2 paychecks from the UFC. Those guys are both too. Oh my God, man! That's why Neil Magny had to grow cornrows.
In face they definitely look a lot alike, but yeah, Neil's tall and skinny guy.
But yeah, at plus 600, man, I wouldn't mind seeing somebody throw a 50 spot down on.
Maybe they're just like he's been win-loss, 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 and he's coming off of a
but
win.
minus
so
900, bro. When is the last time we saw minus 900 in the UFC?
Especially on an unranked opponent, a guy who's been in the top 15 forever.
Unless they know something that we don't know.
Yeah, this goes way back. He's been in the top 15 for forever.
He fought Carlos Condit. That is crazy.
2000.
Remember when Rafael dos Anjos went up to welterweight? That was
Lorenz Larkin back in 2016. 2015.
Is that Bruno Silva? So he goes, bro. He fought Damian Maia, Kelvin How far he's been fighting for?
He was in the Ultimate Fighter back in like 2012.
Seth, no, that wasn't Seth Basinski.
Yeah, 2013 he started his run in the UFC. This guy's, let's see, he's
got to be approaching like all-time hours inside the octagon, man. Truly a company man.
It's crazy. And an American veteran.
Yeah, we covered him on the Mount Rushmore of fighters who have served. So what else?
Well, this Ecuadorian guy must be a scary dude to be minus 900. I don't recall seeing any of his fights, but I'm sure I did. But his last 2 fights were unanimous decisions, and then before they had 2 knockouts. the most notable name that I could see is Max
Jake
Griffin.
Matthews.
I think it is.
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
Jake
Yeah,
Matthews.
Jake Matthews. Yep. Literally.
Speak of the devil, and he
Yeah,
shall appear.
boom. There it is. But yeah, I mean, he's a notable name, but I'd say Max Griffin's a little bit more notable of a name, and he beat him, in a decision. But the two guys he knocked out, I think Giles I'm familiar with. Trevin Giles, yeah.
I'm going to say right now, if you're a betting man, throw 50 down on Neil, because I'll take anybody at plus 600.
Yeah.
I'll take your son at plus 600 over you, Bill.
Yeah, good choice.
That's
And then you got Angela Hill fighting Tabitha Ritchie, number 9 versus number 11.
she's another one, man. She's been around forever. This woman.
She's been a gatekeeper for as long as the strawweight division has been a thing.
That's a you pick 'em at minus 110.
Yep.
I tell you what, I don't know if I'm going to tune into that for the athletic dynamism, but I wouldn't mind watching Tabitha Ricci getting sweaty in the octagon for 15 minutes, man.
Yeah,
That's,
she looks pretty, doesn't she?
that is a marketable.
Yeah. Yep. She beat Pennington. But that's not Raquel Pennington. That's who did she marry? She changed her name. Oh, she married Tisha. Was it Flor? What was her last name?
Tisha Torres.
Torres.
Yeah.
Tisha Torres. Yeah, the Tiny Tornado. So she beat the Tiny Tornado. She's beat.
Well, either way, this is a marketable woman, and if the
pink
UFC
haired
has a Portuguese division where they cover sports, look for this girl to be sitting ringside. That is a pretty woman. $1 million smile too, man.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
How am I not familiar with her? But I'm an American. I'm still going to root for Angela Hill, and with Jared Cannonier and Caio Borralho. This is another one where you got a number 12 fighter taking on a number 5. And I do think Jared Cannonier's best years are behind him. Pull up Jared Cannonier's.
I think Brawl is scary too.
Well, this is much like that Diego Lopez thing, or the where I said they're looking to build the name of an up and comer on the decline of a superstar.
So we talked about it earlier. Cannonier was knocked out by Imavov, and before that he beat Marvin Vettori.
Marvin Vittori's never really impressed me all that much.
And then he didn't fight for a long time because I remember when he beat Strickland, it was a split decision. It was a close one. And then obviously he fought for the belt where there was...
Derek Brunson, that's the guy who just left abruptly. No one ever talks about it anymore.
He had a run at the end of it, but he wants the belt.
He got past Anderson Silva.
He did. Yeah, he did.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say that right now that Caio, who's incredibly dangerous, incredibly athletic, Sid at when you put a number 12 guy against a number 5 guy, and go to his recent fight record, if you don't mind, brother.
Yeah, and mind you, Cannonier is coming off of getting knocked out just 2 months ago.
Right, but go to Caio's record real quick. So you watch. He is 1, 2. I said 6-0, like I had mentioned before. You're not gonna risk like an athletic, good-looking kid like that at 6-0. You're not gonna rush him to the top like they did with Sage Northcutt, like they did with Paige Van Zandt. I think that the matchmakers know that there's something going on, and they're looking to build the name Caio so he can be the co-main on a UFC pay-per-view card. He's probably being groomed to get into an a contender fight or an eliminator fight for the middleweight division, especially since Izzy's probably on his way out.
Yeah.
They're looking for more stars there. So, with Caio, and I got a chance to watch some of his highlights too, man. The kid has fast hands, Bill. The kid has fast hands.
Yeah, he's built like that. Like he's a scary dude. I don't like this for Cannonier.
I don't either. But again, too, that's when you got a name like Jared Cannonier, you have a name like Neil Magny, you have a name like Brian Ortega. Sometimes the best value that the UFC can see out of those is to use those names to build the next generation of stars coming up. And it sucks. And every now and again, we got to see Rose Namajunas get past Tracy Cortez not too long ago. On occasion, the crafty veteran finds a way out. But, look for Jared Cannonier. Tai Tuivasa losing 5 in a row, man. We covered a lot today. Anything else you want to chat about before we say farewell? Any drama, any gossip in the MMA world? Is John Jones gonna fight Tom Aspinall? Is he gonna retire?
We can we'll check through the news. Yeah, I mean that's the only thing is John Jones gonna fight Tom Aspinall or is he gonna retire?
First of all, I don't think John Jones has the money to retire. I think that he knows. I think that he knows he has to fight again, but he's going to try to milk it to get paid as much as he can, or we're going to see him box Deontay Wilder. One way or the other, John Jones has to compete. But I do feel bad for Tom Aspinall, just still holding on to that, the paper belt.
I don't even think UFC 306 is booked. I'm sorry. Gosh, I keep doing that because they don't call it UFC 306. They call it
Noche.
Yeah, Rayada season Noche UFC. You got Burns and Brady before that. Gilbert Burns is getting older. Sean Brady was recently knocked out by Bilal Muhammad, but before that he looked extremely promising for the division. So we got 2 fight nights going into 306.
And there's really there's nowhere for go back up top, Bubba, to that fight.
And then I think it's what do you think about Roundtree getting booked for Pereira? That's
a great topic to cover last, man. So Khalil Roundtree tested positive for PEDs on what was alleged to be a banned substance. Do I think that it's convenient that Ankalaev was booked about 2 weeks before that? I don't want to see the UFC pad the record of Alex Pereira. I do think that Ankalaev has, and look at that ranking, Bill. Just read that for the folks that can't see it. What is Khalil Roundtree ranked?
Number 8.
Go to 205 real quick. Let's look at the folks who Khalil Roundtree
just jumped over. Tons of them. But I mean, obviously, Ankalaev being the big one to jump over. So Jamal Hill's already fought him. Jan has not fought Alex.
Rakic is a tough out.
Yeah, but Rakic just lost.
I click on him.
Yeah, he just lost. And he's booked. Okay, so they booked him with Ankalaev, but he lost to Proska. He pretty rough way too.
But yeah, who's Ankalaev fighting?
Ankalaev's fighting Rakic.
Rakic. Okay.
Yeah, Rakic. Yeah. Volkom's a joke. I mean,
so is Krylov.
Yeah, Krylov and Volkom, they're not jokes. Don't get me wrong; they're scary.
Jan
dudes.
had his opportunity,
but they're they could be behind Khalil Roundtree.
Jamal Hill got absolutely destroyed by. So I can see why they don't give it to Jamal Hill. Jan Blachowicz has already proven he can't do anything against Pereira, so I can buy that.
No, they never fought.
Who?
Jan versus Pereira.
Jan lost to Izzy. Jan lost to.
No, Jan beat Izzy.
I'm sorry. You're right. Jan beat Izzy. Jan beat.
Jan beat everybody but Ankalaev. Ankalaev took it. I'm wrong. I'm sorry, Ray. Pereira did. Beat
Okay, I thought. Okay, I felt stupid there for a moment.
Yeah, well.
I could have sworn they fought. They did fight.
Oh, but it was a split decision. Why not run that one back? But Ankalaev, he's got a draw, but he said, remember, that was really respectful. Whenever they called it a draw, and then Jan says, no, Ankalaev win this fight. Yeah. He's he'll never have stardom, Jan, but that's a hard guy not to love.
Incredibly difficult guy not to love. One of Poland's finest.
Yeah. Yep. I guess they just don't want to keep running it back. Ankalaev, as long as he beats up.
Why does Teixeira look like somebody did a Photoshop to make him look 75 in that photo?
He does.
The UFC did him dirty by making that his headshot. That is absolutely that is totally uncalled for.
You know what's crazy is that not that long ago, this was the most boring division. For the longest time, it was the craziest division, but yeah, not that long ago.
Dominic Reyes was never the same once they gave that decision to John Jones over him. Yeah. It's like we saw the best version of Dominic Reyes against John Jones, and then he just...
Now he's number 13.
Really sad to see.
Yeah.
Everybody that was competitive against John. Same thing with Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes, and who was the third fighter that was incredibly competitive against John? There was a third...
OSP did half decent.
Ovid St. Preux, fucking Q-Dog from Tennessee.
He's got a fight coming up.
OSP's got to be 42 years old.
Yeah, let's look at that. He's got a fight coming up. Let's look at athletes. There we go.
Ovid St. Preux even danced at heavyweight for a little bit. Do you remember that? He left 205. He went up.
Yeah. Yeah, old Tennessee Volunteer. Oven St. Peru. He is going to be fighting Ryan Spann.
Wow.
September 7th. So that's on the not this card coming up this weekend.
What are
but
they
the one-
fighting at? Click on the fight. I want to see if he's coming back down to 205 or if he's sitting at. It's got to be heavyweight if he's fighting Spann.
Yeah, it's gonna be. There we go. How do I go to that? So, anyways, let me go back. So, I mean, he beat Shogun Rua, and then he lost to
Maurizio had a run.
Lins, and then-
Maurizio had a legitimate run at the end of his career too, where he actually pulled off. I want to say like 4 fights in a row at 205 once everybody thought he was done.
So OSP fought in March of this year. 5 months later, he's back to fight again, and it is Ryan Spann's going to be light heavyweight division.
Okay, so he's back down to 205. I like that a lot better for.
Yeah.
I was right, man. He's 41 years old.
So he's going to be on the Burns versus Brady card.
He might be the oldest guy on the roster at this point at 41. Either him or Wonderboy's 40 at least.
How Ryan Spann and Oven St. Peru's way down on the prelims and not even the main prelims in a card like this is crazy to me. Right? You would think. I mean, Ryan had a run at it there for a minute too. Has he just been on a big losing streak or something? 21. They haven't dropped the odds for this one yet. I guess they're holding out on that, huh? Ryan Spann. Okay, let's see. He lost to Guskov, and he lost.
Anthony Smith.
He lost to Anthony Smith, and he lost to Krylov. So he was
He's
on a
0-3.
he was on a run for a minute there, but he's lost to Anthony Smith twice.
A lot of people lose to Anthony Smith, Bill.
Yeah, yep. He's been
Lost to
around a
Johnny
long time.
Walker. Beat Smiling Sean Alvey.
I mean, Khalil Roundtree got knocked out by Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker's an athlete, bro.
He's a scary athlete. I don't know. It's like the only reason Johnny gets a lot of losses is because he'll trade a shot to give a shot type of guy. He'll stand tall, chin up in the air.
He's a guy who probably wanted to fight outside of a nightclub every night, but the UFC was like, "Hey, we'll pay you to do this." So I think that's everything we got for the
Melon
week.
Lover 2006 says casuals.
Oh, thanks, pal.
Thank you, Melon Lover.
Yeah.
Well, they were only a Melon Lover back in 2006, so today they don't.
That was the year that melons were at their all-time peak, Bill. Little known fact.
Bandwagon. See, we're casuals with their bandwagon melons.
He was only a fan when melons were on top of the game.
All right, well,
Who
get
did?
us out of here.
All right, everybody, I'm Ray. That was our first episode live. We're probably still going to put out a weekly segment the way that we used to. Today was a dry run. You have a good time today, Bill?
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, we're blessed to have Ray here. Ray just we wanted to stand up and do it in the green screen room the way we usually do it, but Ray took a nearly fatal car accident on a major highway here where we live, rolling the car multiple times. So we're just blessed to have him here.
18-wheeler put me into the rail. Airbag wound up putting me unconscious, and car rolled. I woke up on the other side of the road against the divider, and I'm having a hard time walking around. But all things considered, I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like I was sharp today for being concussed 48 hours ago.
Well, back in your fighting days, it was hard to put you to sleep, but it turns out Ford Explorers can knock you right the hell out.
On my if I had a Sure Dog fight update, I would have just lost to an 18-wheeler by fucking FedEx. So there was that. I love talking the sport, and I can't wait to do our next live fight night on UFC 306 or on Noche. I'm sure that me and Bill come at you live. Until then, I'm Ray, and the booth is Billy. We're out.
Let's go.